Okay, welcome to your video on problem solving with bearings and trigonometry. And we're going to look at using the sine and cosine rules as well, which I know is new to you, but is a more efficient way. It is possible to solve these through right angle trigonometry and multiple steps, but it's much easier to solve with a sine or cosine rule. So let's have a look at this question. David takes part, this is from your assessment. David takes part in a cross-country race. He leaves the starting point of the race and runs due west for 5.5 kilometers before changing direction and running 6.3 kilometers in a northwest direction. Okay. Calculate how far David is from the starting point. I just need to start adding some things in. I need to work out what I need to do and where I can start. So the first thing is calculate how far David is from the starting point. Well, let's draw that line in where David ends up and where his starting point was. That's what the distance that I need to find. So I'm going to label that. I won't label that anything for the moment, but that's what I want to try to find. Okay. Now, what else can I add in? There's a northwest direction. Okay, so that's the northwest direction there. So between north and west would be 90 degrees. So between the north and northwest, that's halfway in between north and west, that's 45 degrees there. And if I think that that there is 90 degrees, that's 45, that's 90. So that whole angle there is 135 degrees. And I've really found something out that now will help me to solve this problem. From this point in, I need to realize that the best thing to solve this problem is going to be the cosine rule. The cosine rule is given to you in the exam paper, so you don't need to memorize it, but you do need to know how to use it. It's a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a. Now that doesn't necessarily mean much to you unless you know what these a's and b's and c's stand for. So let's have a look at it in this case. All they are is the letters which are not capitals are sides, and the angles are the letters with capitals. In this case I've just got one angle, so I only need to use one angle when I'm working something out with the cos rule. I've roughly replicated this diagram here, and I'm going to label it up with these angles. So it doesn't really matter which way you do it, but I would like to think that what you need for the cosine rule is you need two sides and the included angle, the angle in between. So I know that side and I know that side. I'm trying to find this side and I know this angle. I'm going to label this angle A, which means that this side, the side is always opposite. So the A is opposite A. So little a, side little a is opposite angle big A. Okay. So I can make this B and this C. This would be angle big B and this would be angle big C, but I don't need it for the cosine rule. All I need is this. Now I know that this is also 5.5 kilometers, and I know that this is 6.3. I'm trying to find this out, A. I know that the little a, I know that this angle here is 135 degrees. Actually, I've got all my information that I can put into the formula. So a squared equals, okay, b squared, so that's 6.3 squared, plus c squared, so that's plus 5.5 squared, minus 2 lots of 6.3 times by 5.5 times by cos of, in this case, 135 degrees. These are all just numbers. I can work out what a squared is. Okay. All I need is my calculator and to be very careful with inputting it. I would recommend, if you do this, that you maybe go back and just check your check you're working out by doing each one individually, but I'm going to put them all in together to start with. So, I'll try that with my calculator, see if I can get it right. So I want 6.3 squared plus 5.5. Let's make sure I got it in the screen. Squared minus, now careful, I want this all multiplied together, so minus, I'm going to do 2 times by 6.3 times by 5.5 times by, I want cos 35, so cos 135 rather, so times by cos 135, and I'm going to close the brackets on that. Let's check that, let's make sure I've input it right. That looks okay, let's try it. Gives me 118.94. So that gives me a squared. You just need to be good with your calculator skills to make sure you're putting that in correctly. A squared equals 118.94. And I'll include more digits because I do not want to lose accuracy at this point. Okay, only round at the end if you're going to round. So A is therefore equal to the square root of that. 118.94249999. So what I'm going to do is I'll just take the square root of my answer, and that gives me 10.9060769, and I'm going to round that now. I'll say I'll round it to one decimal place. It doesn't ask me to round it to anything particular. So A is equal to 10.9 kilometers, don't forget the units, to one decimal place. And that is how to do that sort of question with the cosine rule. If you have a look at your work from the lesson, or if you haven't got it, I'll just show you another example. Very similar sort of example here. Okay, so let's have a look at this. I'll just put that back, and I'll put it all in shot so you could see the whole of it. You can pause the video if you need to have a good look at that. Okay, let's have a look at a couple more of these trigonometry problem-solving type questions. Okay, sketch below shows the journey of a ship from a harbour. Ship leaves the harbour and sails 30 kilometres on a bearing of 40 degrees, 50 kilometres on a bearing of 100 degrees. Calculate the distance between the ship is from the harbour. So I'm going to draw in again what I need to find. I need to find that distance. What else can I add in? Well, I can add in some angles. Now I don't know what that angle is because that's not necessarily this is due east at all. So actually I don't know that angle, and I don't know that angle. I can't put them in. But I do actually know this angle. It takes a little bit of problem solving, but I can work out what that angle is. Firstly, I'm going to continue this line that's going due north, south. That will help me to see it. So by alternate angles, I know that if that's 40 degrees, because these north lines have got to be parallel, because north does run parallel, then that's also 40 degrees. Also, angles on a straight line. I know if that's 100 degrees, that bit there has got to be 80 degrees. So the whole of that is 120 degrees, and hopefully you've spotted that you can use the cosine rule again. So again, you could refer to your the formula at the front of the exam paper. You don't need to memorize this, but the cosine rule is a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a. Okay, so I just need to know what these a's, b's and c's means. I think and I'm going to just sort of roughly copy this triangle and label it with those things to make it nice and clear for myself. Okay. I want to find this angle. I want to find that length, don't I? So I'm going to call that length A because I know that angle. That angle A equals 120 degrees. That's 50. That's 30. I've got all that I need. I've got two and include two sides, an included angle, and I want to find the opposite. So that's perfect for the cosine rule. So all I need to do is substitute in now then. So A squared equals, right, let's just label the rest of these. That doesn't really matter which one, B and C. So A squared equals 30 squared plus 50 squared minus 2 times by 30 times by 50 times by cos of 120. There we go. That's it. So we're going to put that into the calculator carefully again, being very careful again. So 30 squared plus 50 squared minus 2 times by 30 times by 50 times by cos 120 equals 4,900. So A squared equals 4,900. So to find A, I just need to square root that. So A equals the square root of 4,900. Square root 4,900 equals A equals 70. If you get a nice round number like that, you know you've got to be on the right track. So A equals 70 kilometers. So that's the distance from the ship to the harbour, 70 kilometers. Just thinking if we do one more. Very, very similar question, this one. I'll let you guys have a go at that, actually. I think, having shown you those two, you should be in a good position to work that one out because it's very, very similar. So that's the full working for that question. You need to use your angle facts in order to make sure that you can work out missing angles. Any missing angles you might need, you need to spot that it's the cosine rule. You don't need to remember the cosine rule, but you do need to apply it, and you do need to work your calculator correctly to find it. I'd always recommended drawing this out, this sort of thing out to help you. So best of luck with that, and I expect to see it for Friday at the latest. Thank you.